Today we are going to look at Lesson 6. The objective says, compare decimal fractions to the thousands using like units and express comparisons with greater than, less than, or equal to. Question number 1 says, show the numbers on the place value chart using digits. Use greater than, less than, or equal to compare. Explain your thinking to the right. In the first part to question 1, the two numbers say 54 and 449 thousandths and 54 and 494 thousandths. I'm going to write them on the lines below now. Now that the numbers are in the boxes, let's compare them going from left to right. The blue arrow is currently pointed at the tens place. In both places there is a 5, so we have to move on to the ones place to compare the next set of numbers. The ones place also has two 4s in them. The 4s are equal, so we must move on to the decimal point. Beyond the decimal point, the first number is the tenths place. In the tenths place, each number has a 4 in it. Those would also be equal. We'll then move to the right to the thousandths place, where we will find our first difference in numbers. Here you see a 4 in the hundredths place and a 9 in the hundredths place. Compare the two numbers. Which number is larger? The 9 is larger. We can now say that 54 and 449 thousandths is less than 54 and 494 thousandths, thanks to the 9 in the hundredths place. Now let's take a look at the second part to question number 1. The first number says 21 hundredths. The second number says 103 thousandths. Let's write the numbers on the line right now. Let's compare the numbers going from left to right. Starting in the ones place, both numbers have a 0. So we have to go to the decimal and then to the right of the decimal to the tenths place. In the tenths place we have a 2 and a 1. Which number is larger? The 2 is larger than the 1. So now we have solved the problem. 21 hundredths is greater than 103 thousandths. The key to comparing decimals is to go from left to right until you find the first number that is different. We are now on question number 2. Number 2 says use greater than, less than, or equal to compare the following. Use a place value chart to help if necessary. I'm going to do parts A, C, and E. When you are watching this at home, you will try to do B and D once I have completed the 3 problems. In problem A, we are comparing 19 and 9 tenths and 19 and 8 tenths. I'll write out the numbers below so they can be compared easily. This problem is very similar to other problems that we have done. Start in the tens place. Both numbers have a 1. So let's move on to the right to the ones place. Once again, each number in the ones place is the same, this time being a 9. After the decimal in the tenths place, however, is where we find our first difference. The top number has a 9 in the tenths place, and the bottom number has an 8 in the tenths place. Since 9 is greater than 8, we can say that 19 and 9 tenths is greater than 19 and 8 tenths. In question C, we have a fraction being compared to a decimal. We're going to change the fraction to a decimal. The fraction says 70 thousandths. The denominator in the fraction is 1,000. To convert that to a decimal, that would be to the thousandths place. All this fraction means is that 70 over 1,000 is equivalent to 70 thousandths, which I will write right next to it on the line now. Now that we've converted 70 over 1,000 to 70 thousandths, we can compare the two decimals. Start by looking in the ones place. in the ones place there are 2 zeros, so we now have to move to the right of our decimal to the tenths place. I've underlined the digits in the tenths place. We have a 0 and a 7. Those are two different numbers. Which number is larger, 0 or 7? 7 is larger than 0. Because 7 is larger than 0, we can now solve the equation above. 70 thousandths is less than 715 thousandths. Question 2E has 5.6 being compared to 56 tenths. In a way, you need to also convert 56 tenths to a decimal. The word tenths is a hint for us. What we need to do is create a decimal where the last number in 56 is in the tenths place. Remember, the tenths place is the first digit after the decimal. So if we have to put the last digit in 56 into the tenths place, what number would that be? The last number in 56 is 6, so the 6 would go into the tenths place. If the 6 goes into the tenths place, the 5 then has to go one place over to the left, which would be the ones place. 56 tenths is equivalent to 5.6. Now let's compare the numbers below. Let's start in the ones place. Both numbers have a 5. So we then have to go past the decimal to the tenths place, where both numbers are a 6. 5.6 and 5.6 then are equivalent. Now that we have solved A, C, and E, try solving B and D. In question B, remember that 44 over 100 means that the decimal is going to only go to the hundredths place. Take the numerator in 44 over 100 and fill them into the blanks below to help you solve the remainder of this problem. In question 2D, take the two decimals and compare them like I did for A, C, and E. This should help you figure out if 22 and 650 thousandths is greater than, less than, or equal to 22 and 65 hundredths. Now let's move on to our next three problems. Question number 3 says, arrange the numbers in increasing order. A. 1 and 69 thousandths, 1 and 7 hundredths, 1 and 5 hundredths, and 1 and 66 thousandths. They are asking us to arrange these numbers in increasing order, so we'll start with the smallest number and get larger with each number that follows. Let's write these four numbers to the right. Let's start by looking at the numbers in the ones place. All four numbers have a 1 in the ones place. Since everything is the same, we have to move on to the tenths place. In the tenths place, every digit has a 0, so we'll have to move on to the hundredths place. Now that we're in the hundredths place, we see that there are some numbers that are different. We have a 6, 7, 5, and 6. We are going to arrange the numbers in increasing order, so we are looking for the smallest number first. So what number is the smallest? 5, 6, or 7? The 5 is the smallest number. For that reason, 1 and 5 hundredths is the smallest number, so we'll write that on the line now. Now we're left with 1 and 69 thousandths, 1 and 7 hundredths, and 1 and 66 thousandths. Let's stay in the hundredths place where we have a 6, 6, and 7. 6 is a lower number than 7, so now for our next number we're down to two choices. 1 and 69 thousandths or 1 and 66 thousandths. To find out which number is smaller, we have to go over to the thousandths place. We have a 6 and a 9 in the thousandths place. 6 is less than 9, so 1 and 66 thousandths will be the next number that we list above. Going back into the hundredths place, we have a 6 and a 7 remaining. We know that 6 is less than 7, so 1 and 69 thousandths is the next number that we will have on the line. That leaves us with 1 and 7 hundredths, which would be our largest number. We have now arranged the numbers in increasing order. Question number 4 says, arrange the numbers in decreasing order. So this time we'll take the largest number first and work our way down to the smallest number. We have 638 and 422 thousandths, 638 and 242 thousandths, 638 and 24 hundredths, and 638 and 423 thousandths. We'll write those numbers over to the right at this time. The first thing I notice about these four numbers is they all start out with 638. Since those three numbers in the hundreds, tens, and ones place are the same, we're going to move past the decimal over to the tenths place. In the tenths place, we have a 4, 2, 2, and 4. Remember, we are looking for the largest number first. 4 is greater than 2, so the two numbers that have a 4 in the tens place will be the first two numbers that we look at. Each digit has a 4 in the tens place, so let's look at the hundredths place. Each number here is a 2, so we have to move on to the thousandths place. In the thousandths place, we have a 2 and a 3. We are looking for the largest number. 3 is larger than 2, so 638 and 423 thousandths is our biggest number, and 638 and 422 thousandths is our second largest number. We'll now write these numbers on the line to our left. Our remaining two choices are 638 and 242 thousandths and 638 and 24 hundredths. All four choices start with 638, so let's start in the tenths place. In the tenths place, we have a 2 and a 2. Those numbers are equal, so we must move over to the hundredths place. In the hundredths place, we have a 4 and a 4. These two values are also equal, so we must move on to the thousandths place. In the thousandths place, we have a 2 and a blank spot. If you ever see that there is not a number in the thousandths place, you can fill in a 0 to help you compare the two numbers. Now let's compare. We have a 2 and a 0. We are looking for the largest number in the thousandths place. 2 is greater than 0, so 638 and 242 thousandths will be the third number on our line, and 638 and 24 hundredths, or 638 and 240 thousandths is another way of saying it, is our smallest number. We'll add those numbers over to the left, and then we will have completed question number 4. Let's move on to question number 5. Question number 5 says, Jimmy measured 347 thousandths liter of water. Kyle measured 4/10 liter of water. Jimmy said, my beaker has more water than yours because my number has 3 decimal places and yours only has 1. Is Jimmy correct? Use words and numbers to explain your answer. Let's start by writing what we know below. We know that Jimmy has 347 thousandths liters of water in his beaker and Kyle has 4/10 liter of water in his beaker. Now we need to compare the numbers because Jimmy believes he has more water in his beaker because his number has 3 digits after the decimal. When you compare numbers, you go from left to right. Let's begin comparing the two numbers in the ones place. Both numbers have a 0. So let's move beyond the decimal over to the tenths place. In the tenths place, we have a 3 and a 4. We know that 4 is greater than 3, so Kyle actually has more water in his beaker and Jimmy is incorrect. Another way you could solve this is by putting in 2 zeros after the 4, so each number can be comparable. With the zeros inserted after the 4, we now see that Kyle has 400 thousandths liters of water compared to Jimmy's 347 thousandths liters of water. Either way, Kyle has more water in his beaker. Now let's write an explanation for the question. Kyle has more water in his beaker. I know this because I compared the two numbers by going from left to right, and 4/10 is greater than 3/10. The extra digits in the hundredths place and thousandths place do not matter in this problem. Now you have some background knowledge on comparing decimals for our next lesson.